Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pro Wrestling Report Prime Time. It's PWR Prime Time.
Prime time here. Prime time here.
Damian Nelson, the man they call Meathead, here coming to you on Wednesday, April 29, 2009 at PWRshow.com, and Friday, right after WWE SmackDown.
SmackDown,
May 1st,
yeah!
on Time Warner Cable, Channel 14 in southeastern Wisconsin. Damian Nelson, the man they call Meathead. If I didn't say that already, this is the Pro Wrestling Report. Meathead, we're coming off the heels of WWE Backlash. We've got a huge superstar interview this week, the first of many. Hernandez joins us of TNA, one half of LAX. Clip of the week, and we're going to get some detailed discussion on the definition, or what is a wrestling fan. All that coming up right here tonight on the Pro Wrestling Report, PWR Primetime. Thank you so much for tuning in wherever you may be. And let's first get into the discussion about the wrestling fan. A lot of people have passionately spoken out about whether or not you are a WWE mark or a TNA mark. I forget, do we know what I am this week?
Yeah, we know exactly what you are, a Backstreet Boy mark. It may be a gimmick for the radio, it's carried its way on the TV.
Apparently I am a TNA mark at times because we've joked for a long time that the wrestling fan doesn't remember beyond 3 months, sometimes
Correct.
3 years.
Correct. And we've joked about that only because when we have TNA talent on, now they're just being good for business, and because they feed them TNA talent, now we're going to mark out for the company. We have specifically stated, even with TNA talent, some of our gripes, some of our disappointments with their product.
Listen to past shows. We don't pull back when it comes to that, but be that as it may, a lot of discussion about whether or not you're one or the other, and I'd like to give this for discussion. Why is it that you can't just be a wrestling fan, a professional wrestling fan, and appreciate what comes from either company, WWE or TNA? Both have their goods, both have their bads.
Don't forget about Ring of Honor, because we have some Ring of Honor in here as well.
That will certainly change from week to week, but let's start with the definition of a mark, Meathead. Because I think this word's been being used...
it's been contorted.
I think so. It's been being used improperly. The definition of a mark, as far as wrestling terms go, is someone who believes, a fan who believes that everything they see in wrestling is real. They believe that Kane really, was having sex with Katie Vick. They believe that Mae Young gave birth to a hand.
Mae Young showed her puppies.
They believe those were actually her puppies. They may even believe Santina is not Santino. So that's a wrestling mark. So when we're accused...
But that's by the purest definition.
That is true.
There's a lot of gray area when it comes to a mark. A mark is, and we have professed to also be in marks.
I'm a mark.
Now, when you use the, by the way, PWR shop, you can buy the I'm a Mark t-shirt. When I have... Thank you.
Cha-ching!
I've got a... Hold on.
Ding! Oh, the gimmick's on.
Yeah. When we use the term mark, we mean a mark as in we are marked for the business of professional wrestling. We want to believe, even though we know better, we want to believe that the wrestling and what's going on is realistic, but not real. It's gray area, a lot of gray area.
But, Meathead, there's a lot of controversy out there amongst the fans, amongst the internet wrestling community.
The IWC.
Someone likes something TNA does, they're automatically labeled to be a TNA mark. Someone likes something a WWE does, they're automatically labeled to be an E mark. Now, there are people, because I used to be this fan, there are people who will not let anything encroach upon their beloved WWE.
1998, check out episode 1, the Phantom episode.
It's out there.
It is.
Hell, I didn't even, WCW, yes, I was never a fan of WCW. I'm sorry, for those of you that don't know,
I thought we were going to get past
is
that.
a defunct wrestling organization purchased by World Wrestling Entertainment in 2001. But for those of you that don't know, I watch a lot of old Nitro stuff now and be like, dang, I really miss that. You look at the clips at PWRshow.com, the PWR favorite videos. Hell, I think a majority of them are from WCW and the Nitro days.
Mean Gene swearing?
Yes. But Meathead, this argument of why is it that, let's say Backlash versus Lockdown, for instance. Backlash, obviously, on pay-per-view last weekend, Lockdown the week before. The comparison is natural between the two shows as it was the pay-per-view offering from each company that week.
For the month of April as well.
For that month, yes.
Correct.
How could you not naturally compare the two shows, and how is it that some fans literally get upset, get pissed off, when a fan acknowledges that the other product, in their opinion, was better than one.
It's because
was better than the other.
And you can use this philosophy in religion. You could use it in sports. You could use it in any way of life. Man United is better than any other football club in the Premier League. I mean, including Chelsea and Newcastle, all them scrubs. Manchester United, the Red Devils, are the #1 team. But be that as
in your opinion.
Be that as
and there are many people
actually
who
they are
disagree with
the defending champions. So actually, it's not an opinion; it's fact.
As
but be that as it may.
You're welcome.
Be that as it may. Some people get upset when you're told that your opinion is wrong. That's why, even though I have changed my ways a little bit, Damien, and we're not going to go into a whole personal me thing, but I've never been a fan of organized religion. Because, for the most part, you have a head figure of organized religion telling you, if you don't believe in our way, you are wrong.
And that's what you get.
It's being told that you don't believe what I believe.
And that's the thing that troubles me most, is especially in a lot of our comments at PWRshow.com, on our YouTube channel, and across our other media networks.
Correct.
You see so many people just lashing out at others because their opinion was different.
Correct.
And we're not going to get into a soapbox type situation here, but the question that's out there is, how can wrestling fans appreciate each other's opinions? There were good points about lockdown. There were good points about backlash. Whether you think
there were few or far between, because most of the points,
in your opinion.
No, most of the points are just attacks on somebody else's opinion.
Well, if you ever have to resort to a personal attack, your opinion no longer matters, in my opinion.
Or you're not intelligent enough to come up with an opinion.
So the question, are there WWE and TNA marks, or are there wrestling marks?
Yes. I mean, I hate to give you kind of an ambiguous answer.
I think it's a valid answer.
Yes.
We want to know what you guys have to say.
By the way, look up ambiguous. It'll take a second. Just come back to the page.
Especially pertaining to the WWE versus TNA argument. And I think a lot of people who are labeled as TNA marks are people who are labeled that way by those who just don't imagine how someone can follow an organization that is not as glitzy and glamorous as World Wrestling Entertainment. Obviously, you look at a $500 million company, WWE, and you look at an upstart, basically, which is what it still is, TNA. You look at where TNA has come over the last 7 years, and I think you'll learn a lot more. But you look at WWE, obviously the mainstay. Of course you're going to get a better production. Of course you're going to get bigger stars. Of course you're going to get more people. Of course you're going to get higher ratings. A lot of people use the comparison.
That's the ratings thing.
Well, yeah,
really drives
TNA
me
only
nuts.
gets a 1.3. They're the #1 show on Spike TV. They're one of the top-rated shows on cable.
And
WWE has been on television on
Sure.
USA Network, or its equivalent, if you will, for the last 15-plus years. They've got an established fan base. Should TNA be drawing 5 million viewers a week? No, not at this point, because the product is not that recognized as WWE
But
is.
Damien, the ratings thing drives me nuts. Because you and I are wrestling fans, and most of you out there are wrestling fans as well. You watch WWE, you watch TNA, you watch Ring of Honor. You'll go to a local show if it's convenient for you.
Like Blizzard Brawl 5, or even June 12th, coming up, Scott Hall versus Kevin Nash from GLCW here in Milwaukee.
Is Frank involved in that show? Because, I mean, he's obviously been out training. He's
not
on the program.
It is at the Italian Community Center.
He knows the guy.
Saying.
He knows the guy. So, anyway, the ratings thing, it bothers me. It's really silly.
It's not fair to compare. And we talked to, I believe that was one of the points we talked with Hernandez in this interview that's coming up in a few moments here, is that why are people looking at the ratings and the comparison between the business? If not Hernandez, over the course of the next few weeks, we've got interviews with Christopher Daniels, Booker T, and Abyss.
Is it
all
Daniels?
those things are talked about.
Or Chris?
We'll talk about that in the interview.
Okay, I was just wondering.
He sets me on the right track.
Again, for the second time, because we already did that last year in Orlando. But anyways, the ratings. For one, we're not TV execs.
I am.
We're not TV execs. And we don't break down ratings numbers. How can you tell me what a ratings number means to a company's... Well, I mean, because, you have your... If there are E marks and TNA marks, there's also E haters and TNA haters.
True.
Because it's almost assumed that an E mark hates TNA.
True.
That a TNA mark instantly hates WWE.
True.
Like a lot of the types on the internet.
Sarah Palin?
You know what I'm talking about. And then if you're like Ring of Honor, loaded.
Well, but that's the thing. Wrestling fans can appreciate the goods of all that and take from it what they need. E marks or TNA marks can't appreciate the goods of other companies. And I think it's a subconscious thing where they don't even realize they're not appreciating it, much like I did when I couldn't appreciate the goods, albeit how minimal it was.
At times.
Coming from WCW. I mean, we've had recent comments that say WCW Nitro beat Raw in the ratings every week, so it had to be a better show.
That had nothing to do with it.
More people watched it, but that doesn't mean it was a better show. Friday Night Lights, a great example. Still on. It doesn't get crap for ratings, but it has a core fan base. It's a good program. There are people who
My show. That got saved by ABC.
Saved by
Scrubs. No, Scrubs.
Yeah.
It was saved
It's
by
not
ABC.
a ratings hit. I think it stands in the bottom 100 of ratings.
But you know what? We are hardcore fans, and we watch it religiously.
There are business elements
Right,
to each of these companies that you will never, ever understand. None of us will ever understand. But the comparison between WWE and TNA, for those who have made it, is not about the ratings. It's not about the number of people they draw in a market. It's about what you prefer as product. And hopefully that's professional wrestling and the overall story. And I think you can get that pretty decently from both companies. Will one company be better than the other week to week? Probably. Will one company be better than the other month to month on pay-per-view? Probably. But people are even comparing Lockdown to WrestleMania. WrestleMania is a multi-million-dollar production.
Sure.
Lockdown is obviously
but
a
what
big
are
production.
but
as
what
well,
are you
but
going to the shows for? What are you
Wrestling.
watching? What are you watching?
overall entertainment.
Overall entertainment and wrestling sometimes are two different things.
That is true.
What are you watching the show? It depends on what you're watching it for. Are you watching it for the entertainment value? Are you watching it for pure wrestling value? What are you watching it for? So if somebody is saying that Lockdown was a better show to them than WrestleMania, it's because WrestleMania was full of a lot of fluff.
Well, and it's an appreciable point that Lockdown could have been better in some people's minds.
Look up appreciable too.
Some people's minds than WrestleMania. I get it. I was, look, I just channeled our president there.
I know. I saw you. You're doing the hand.
The press conference is on tonight, by the way.
His first 100 days.
Yeah. The report card. Look, Arlen Specter.
Can I sidetrack for a second?
You just did.
I'm happy. I happen to be in a house and I'm happen to watch CNN and they're talking to the hip hop doc, who was just a man on the street.
Sanjay Gupta?
No, who was happened to be a man on the street. I didn't think Obama did it in the first 100 days. His label was the hip hop doc, doctor, whatever.
Are you sure you weren't reading The Onion?
No, it was CNN HD. And the guy goes, I'll give him a B+.
I got to give props to my beloved CNN for getting rid of D.L. Hughley.
Thank you.
I am a big fan of D.L., but D.L. breaks the news that just dragged that network down into the hole. But be that as it may, we're off on a tangent now. What I was going to say is that if you are a wrestling fan, I think you can appreciate the superior in-ring wrestling that comes from TNA, and I think you can appreciate the overall entertainment element that comes from World Wrestling Entertainment. We will bash whatever needs to be bashed. We will praise what needs to be praised. And I thought we had a pretty favorable assessment of Backlash. Granted, saying WWE did what they needed to do in that show, which was send the fans home happy, and with that oh crap moment, they did. But Lockdown, as said, was a better overall show, in my opinion. Overall show meaning opening match,
opening bell to the
final match. Yeah, and everyone's saying, how can Lockdown have been better when Sting and Foley was so bad? I thought there were a lot more matches on Lockdown than Sting and Foley.
Yeah, and you know what? Again, even though you see Sting and Foley and think, that's, Foley's one and done, Sting and Foley are one and done. Foley's the champion now. Now you get some humor in this previous week's Impact.
And you see the payoff. Speaking of payoff, let's go now to this past week's Impact. We're going to go to our clip of the week, a new feature here on the Pro Wrestling Report. And we talked about this on PWR Radio, but God, we just got to share it with you. Because it's one of the funniest things I've seen in a long time. And I was there live.
This may be the first thing I've ever said. First time I've ever said it.
And I was there live in the Impact Zone when the taping was occurring, and I laughed for 5 minutes straight because it was so funny. But now let's go, Meathead, to the clip of the week.
Wayne and I have had a 2-decade-long friendship, and I don't hit her on the street side.
I'll tell you what was obvious to me, though, was just the jealousy that Jeff had and felt seeing that belt over your shoulder, knowing he had to give you that. I mean, think about that.
Let's just call Scotty Steiner Mr. Pogo. Oh!
I've never said this before either, but he just got clotheslined right off of the pogo stick.
A pogo stick. Crash Holly never used a pogo stick.
No, Crash Holly. Wow.
Al Snow never used a pogo stick. It was funny.
Scott,
wait, am I a TNA mark now for selecting?
You're a big Papa Pump mark.
Guys, you got to listen to PWR Radio this week, and if you don't know, Pro Wrestling Report Radio on 540 ESPN Monday nights at 10 o'clock p.m. in general, and available right here on the site, pwrshow.com. check it out because we went in depth on Scott Steiner. We talked about Scott Steiner, and I've come to a realization, much like I did with Matt Morgan a couple of weeks ago. Scott Steiner, we'll have an in-depth discussion about him on this past week's edition, rather, of the Pro Wrestling Report, which you can also download on iTunes by searching for Pro Wrestling Report on ESPN Radio.
I get mine, and it downloads every week.
WWE Backlash was this Sunday on pay-per-view. We've got full reviews, a full video review on the site, and also the big portion of this week's PWR Radio was talking about Backlash. We got a couple of new notes since those shows occurred. First of which is Matt Hardy did legitimately break his hand during that matchup with Jeff Hardy at Backlash. John Cena suffered no major injuries, and there are rumors he will be taking some time off. However, that is not yet rumored to be happening. Looks like over the course of the next month, May.
Not confirmed to be happening. You can't rumor a rumor. Just
well, that's what happens to rumors.
There's a song. It runs through my head, and I can't.
Look at all these rumors.
There you go.
Surrounding me every day. WWE has done a very good job, though, Meathead, of pushing Backlash as a significant event on Raw and on
Well,
ECW.
I mean, look what happened for the first time since they've had the 3 belts.
Yeah.
All 3 belts changed hands.
And they encapsulated everything that happened in the pay-per-view very well. But I like it to this.
Let me ask you this. No, let me ask you this. Shouldn't that have happened at WrestleMania?
Exactly. But I liken it to this, and the promos they've been showing on WWE TV, trying to encourage you to purchase the replay, it's almost like, I didn't think Backlash was as good as it could have been, by the way, but I don't think, well, let me rephrase that. I don't think Backlash was as good as TNA's offering this month. Reason being, going into it, I didn't care about any of the matches. Coming out of it, I did, but going into it, I didn't at all. You have to going into
December to Dismember.
That's a defunct pay-per-view, formerly put on by World Wrestling.
But you understand what I'm
ECW brand.
You understand what I'm saying, though? That was the, I believe it was the Joey Mercury eye-busting open.
Yeah.
You know,
Armageddon 2000.
It was 7. Yeah, where they threw
6.
all these matches in there that you didn't know anything about. It ended up being
sleeper.
Phenomenal matches.
It was a sleeper, but they did a good job, and I liken it to this. All that was good in that promo that they've been airing, you've seen bad movies, right, that had good commercials. It's the same kind of situation, in my opinion.
See no evil.
The commercials weren't even good for that. Adventureland is a great example.
Have you?
I did.
I'm sorry.
Yes. But again, they really did a good job putting over the significance of the pay-per-view. And if you just see that or see what happened, I think they built it. It was and they used that as the opportunity to truly separate the brands.
I have another question. Has the significance of WrestleMania lessened and the significance of Backlash
there is no doubt
increased? Because you know what, WrestleMania you're going to buy. You're already invested in WrestleMania because it's WrestleMania. But Backlash really has a lot of important things that always seem to happen at it. You always get main title rematches.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You always get the swinging hooks, even though they don't swing that much.
They haven't swung the hooks in quite a while.
I know.
WrestleMania 2.0, a lot of people called it.
Yeah.
Backlash.
It's been like that for a long time.
You know what, guys? If you haven't seen it, feel free to check it out. Make your own decision. The question is, was it worth $40? I don't think so. But
$45 if you're getting the high def.
That is up to you to decide. And speaking of you, let's bring you a special treat right now here on the Pro Wrestling Report. Let's go to a taped interview that we have with Hernandez. one half of LAX. He was also on PWR Radio this past Monday night, so make sure you check that out. But we've got a video interview with Hernandez Meathead kicking off our big star-studded few weeks here with big stars, major stars.
Somebody did some work. Somebody got some work done.
They did. Let's go now to Hernandez.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, Damian Nelson here, the Pro Wrestling Report on Time Warner Cable and ESPN, Milwaukee.com, 540 ESPN with Hernandez. Supermix, they call you, of TNA Wrestling, Total Nonstop Action Wrestling, one half of the amazing tag team LAX. Hernandez, obviously, we've seen TNA have some tremendous growth over the last few weeks, and LAX having a big part of that. This past weekend in Philadelphia for Lockdown, what an amazing matchup, a three-way match. What do you think? What do you attribute? What do you think is happening? Why are people now really discovering Total Nonstop Action Wrestling?
I think different time zones come together. I think a key element is Hispanic people realize this when Hispanics on TV.
Supermax.
Whether we're Puerto Rican, Mexican, Guatemalan, Honduran. If they see one of us, they're going to watch us. They're going to come support us. And that's what I think the way the change.
Your tag team partner, Homicide,
Yes.
and obviously yourself. Some of the things that we see, some of the things I see that you guys perform in that ring, just absolutely amazing. Do you ever worry about injury? Do you ever worry about, will this be that last big move?
No. I mean, basically, like I said, there's not a lot of Latinos in wrestling as it is. So we want to make our mark hard and strong. You see every other persuasion, African Americans, whites, Asian Americans. You hardly ever see any, Latinos.
Yeah.
So we want our chance. We want them to shine. It's like our motto: live and die in LAX.
Mm-hmm. Who inspired you to get into the wrestling business? Seems like an easy question sometimes, but it becomes more and more difficult every time we ask.
Well, if it's when you watch when you're a child and stuff like that, and your parents always say no. I mean, my parents say I was going to get hurt. I'm 280 pounds right now, and I was allowed to play football, so I was in 11th grade, things like that. So watching television, we live in Houston. I'm watching Paul Bosch wrestling, seeing Dr. Death, Steve Williams, seeing the Guerreros, seeing the Junkyard Dog, guys like that. So that's what got the wrestling bug into me.
Okay. Tag team wrestling. Obviously, so many great tag teams out there. Right now, one I would say is the Latin American Exchange, LAX. It got a little tripped up there. But what tag team influenced you and Homicide to come together and become LAX? What's your inspiration?
Honestly, I hate to say that because one of our enemies here is 3D. They've been together. They've wrestled in Japan. Every big company across the world that's successful. Everywhere they went, over 20 times they won.
Right.
World
22, I think we're up to now.
Now you're a 3D fan
No,
now.
I'm just covering the facts. That's all.
I'm just saying, okay. But I mean, they've been successful everywhere they went, and that's our benchmark. We want to try to, obviously we were in it 3 times in TNA. We know we have a long way to go, but that's our benchmark. That's where we want to set a bar.
And we get a lot of feedback from the viewers out there about the absence of tag team gold around the waist of LAX. What do you have to say about that?
Well,
it's been a little while.
It's been a little bit. We were trying to figure some things out, regroup, trying to get things back together. But, at the same time, we both got briefcases where my man Homicide has a chance to be the X Division champion. And obviously myself, I got a chance to be the heavyweight champion. So,
And I think a lot of people may have misplaced that in their memory because you did initially use that chance, but it was granted back to you. So you still have holding in your pocket a chance at a championship.
Yes, sir. And I will. I mean, by my word, unless someone comes by and shoots me dead, I will be the TNA Heavyweight World Champion before the end of this year.
Now, does that mean, or could that potentially mean the end of LAX?
Of course not.
You pull double duty?
No. Well, when you're LAX, you're LAX for life, man. I mean, you can't just be Hispanic just for one day and say, you know what, I'm going to be a white man. You can't do that.
I was going to sign up to be Hispanic tomorrow.
No, you can't do that.
So, okay. All right. Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Obviously, that's where this show is emanating from, where we're from. You ever been there?
Of course not.
You're supposed to say yes. I brought you some beer down and some cheese, actually, so if you want to enjoy that.
You got some big girls there?
Oh, yeah. Yes, with little person.
I'm an 800-pound squatter.
Ladies and gentlemen.
That's documented, 808. You'll see this right here? That's not normal weightlifting muscles. That's prison muscle. Holding big chicks like this, getting that squat on,
808.
pressing them off me like this. Bro, you don't get tries like this from going to the gym. I promise you that.
Hernandez, thank you so much for your time.
No problem. Tell the big girls to come down.
Oh, I'll be sending them down. Well, they need 2 seats now when you book a flight.
That's okay. They got the extender.
This is the Pro Wrestling Report. Thank you so much, Hernandez, for joining us.
Thank you.
Welcome back. Sorry, I didn't have a voice in my ear that time telling me that
He's not on the phone.
We're coming back.
Are we still working on
Hernandez.
that? Are we still working on that?
We are still working on that, efforting that, if you will. Hernandez talking about a lot of things, including the fact that he's going to try to get that singles championship this year, and that it won't mean the separation of LAX and his love for the Milwaukee women.
Big girls with
big
little
girls.
purses,
you know.
I like square butts.
Next week, we've got another superstar interview. The only way to find out who it will be is to go to pwrshow.com. We'll make that announcement as to who the next interview is. I told you who we have in the can already.
Who we've gotten in the can, too.
Several big major superstars coming to the show over the course of the next few weeks. Let's go to the news desk now. I'll give you a couple of news items. This week's Raw got a 3.4 rating, which was down from last week's 3.7, which has to be viewed,
they're panicking.
Has to be viewed as somewhat of a disappointment due to the backlash curiosity. Typically, the Raw after a pay-per-view, it gets a bit of a bump. Not the case this week.
Remember, it's summer, spring, summer,
The baseball?
The baseball. You also got the people who want to be outside.
China has released a new book called China Paper Doll that is available now for purchase online. Reid Flair was recently rearrested, Meathead.
Rearrested or arrested
again?
He was rearrested.
Driving while intoxicated
and
along with heroin possession. This is Reid's third arrest in the last 2 years. For those of you that don't know, Reid Flair, the son of Ric Flair, who is now doing some appearances for Ring of Honor, including Ring of Honor's return to the Chicago area on June 27. Lance Hoyt has announced that he has signed a deal with World Wrestling Entertainment. Lance Hoyt, formerly of TNA, released from TNA just a little while back, announced at an independent show that he has indeed signed a deal with WWE. We are unsure if this is a developmental deal or if we will see him soon on ETV.
ETV.
WWE has also released superstar Billy Graham from his consultant contract, similar to what they did to Afa of the Samoans just a little while back. So that's a couple of news items for you. Meathead, I think we've got trivia. The meat, we call it.
Giggity. So we started off on the PWR radio this last Monday night, and what we're going to do is...
Sunday night, actually, it was on.
I apologize. Instead of having you call in and having you... We're going to give it to the first person that emails it in. So this week's trivia question...
Email. Gotta get on this internet.
The trivia question was, and the answer is actually referenced in Hernandez's interview on PWR radio on 540 ESPN.
The radio interview.
Yeah, on the radio interview.
The radio interview.
Who was the Ringmaster's opponent at WrestleMania 12?
Oh. Interesting. Again, you can send your responses to that at comments@pwrshow.com. We're going to announce the person who got it right on this Monday night's PWR radio, which is going to be on right after the baseball game, Monday night on 540 ESPN and PWRshow.com. We were talking about the Raw rating. Meathead, let's talk about some of our thoughts of Raw this past Monday night. Firstly, Miz challenging John Cena.
Again, I liked where it was going. Miz,
Hoorah!
There was a lull in his interview. There was an awkward gap.
Seems like he was finding his place.
There was an awkward gap. But you know what?
Maybe he was waiting for Morrison to talk. Oh.
There was an awkward gap. But you know what? He found a second win. Now, I don't remember verbatim what he said, but it actually came home. I mean, he brought it home. And then there was that awkward gap. And I don't understand if Cena, who's drunk, was actually...
He wasn't drunk. He was actually injured from being thrown into a searchlight, by God.
So Cena looked drunk to me. But
drunker than Robin Leach at WrestleMania 4?
No, nobody's drunker than Robin Leach. Lifestyles of the rich and famous. Champagne wishes, caviar dreams.
TikTok.
So, if Cena was in the building, why couldn't he come out to Miz? Is Miz that low? Is Miz that far below him?
I don't know if he has apple-bottom jeans.
Not right.
MVP gets a title shot against Randy Orton.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, you got to admit, though, it was surprising to hear the MVP's music with new pyro. He's got pyro again, by the way.
Well,
MVP's
he's been
music
winning
during the Orton promo. Yeah. That was a match. I mean, it wasn't a bad match.
I'm a little confused why the chick from The View is digging up on MVP now too.
Well, why not?
Why? Because he's a good-looking brother with some gold around his waist.
Santina continues to entertain.
Kind of. I don't know if I like where it's going. I don't really like it. And she did flash
the JR thing?
On Sunday.
Hornswoggle looking up his dress?
Yeah, and it looked like he had a...
Stop. Jeez, we apologize, folks. We apologize. Be sure to tune in to the Pro Wrestling Report on 540 ESPN this Monday night. Also streaming live at PWRshow.com. We're going to be back here again with a brand new episode of the Pro Wrestling Report. Primetime next week with another superstar interview. And make sure you send your answers to this week's trivia question.
We really must be trying to talk to them because we've been leaning in a lot lately.
Beat the meat at comments at PWRshow.com is where you send your responses to that. So thank you for tuning in to the Pro Wrestling Report this week, ladies and gentlemen. For the man they call Meathead and the cause, Damian Nelson saying so long, and we'll see you next week.